Hello YouTube, Deacon Do here. Sorry, the guard dog is sniffing at the tripod. You want to say hello real quick? Come here. Come, say hello. Hello. Is that a Dougal butt? Is that a Dougal and Grandpa's on the cameras? You're a good boy. So today's about video. If you watched the Gran Turismo about video, are you the superstar? Are you the main star? If you watched the last video about Gran Turismo's Power Pack DLC, I mentioned that I have several topics lined up for this About series, about Twitch, about the world racing community, and a couple others I'm not going to spoil just yet. But none of them could be possible without today's video being explained first. And today's video is about Charlie Kirk. And we're not going to talk about his legacy, or whether you liked him or not, whether you agreed with anything he said, whether you thought he was hateful or harmful or any of that nonsense. I don't really care. The death of Charlie Kirk, and it's not just me, but I also talked to some of my friends in DMs and on the phone about the impact of Charlie Kirk. And to a man, everyone I've talked to were negatively impacted by Charlie's death. They felt grief, they felt remorse for a man they had never met. And I think a lot of that had to do because, for the most part, Charlie was a regular dude, right? He was God-fearing. He was a family man. He opened debate with people, and there is a time and a place for debate. And if you all want to do that in the comments, I really don't care. I'm not going to engage with it. But what Charlie's death stirred up in me is the desire to be more vocal about what I believe, more vocal about what I stand for. I posted something on X yesterday to summarize basically, if you always run from confrontation, it will always find you. But if you prepare for it, it'll never come after you. That's summarizing. You can go out onto my Twitter account and go follow me, Deacon Do, over there. You can get the whole gist of it. But Charlie did not back down from confrontation. Charlie opened up dialogue with folks that did not share his opinion. In some cases, that dialogue, in most cases, that dialogue was fairly civil. In some cases, it was not. You need a new collar. Yes, you do need a new collar. Regardless, what Charlie's death did in me was make me want to stand and fight. There's a lot of times where you have a fight or flight mentality, fight or flight. And I mentioned it. If it wasn't the last video, it may have been, the first video of this series, the first one I posted about a week or so ago, where I talked about where I've been and where I was going. And one of the things about streaming that has worn me down is having to be super careful with my opinion, having to be super careful on stream or on social media not to offend somebody. And so I always tried to get along with folks, even when they were just outright wrong, or they were outright hateful, or whatever. And the death of Charlie Kirk kind of made me stand up and say, you know what, enough's enough. They tried to silence him, but instead of silencing him, they've emboldened many, many, many folks. Maybe not as eloquently or as intelligently as he did, but they've emboldened many folks to stand up and speak. Stand up and say, look, that's not right. Stand up and continue the work that he's done of telling the truth, of having open debate. there are some things he said I did not necessarily agree with. But I did agree with the premise that he was always open to having a conversation with somebody. Even if you did not agree with what he said, he was still open to have that conversation. And there's things I've said on social media that I know that people don't like. In fact, I had one person who, said something along the lines of, the BS that you've been spouting on social media lately. I think the quote, not exactly, but something along the lines of, I still respect you even though you've been sprouting BS on social media. I guess sprouting is a British term. Here in the US, we say spouting. Regardless. And I was like, good. To myself, I'm thinking, good. If you don't like some of what I'm saying on social media, then that's fine. That means I'm telling or sharing my opinion. And you may not like my opinion, just like I may not like yours. I have friends who are very left-leaning that I can have civil debates with. I can even tease them about, some of the things they've said, like claiming that all Trump voters are dummies, And if you're watching this video, you know who you are. You know why. I'm not calling anybody out, but, that's an example. And after, conversations and debates and whatnot, hopefully their opinion has changed that not all Trump voters are dummies. There's a lot of intelligent people on both sides. And again, this isn't about politics or about, faith or anything like that, but the death of Charlie Kirk, not just myself, but like I said, other folks I talked to, whether it was on the phone or in DMs, who were affected by Charlie's death, were grieving Charlie's death, even though they had never met him, all kind of agreed that his death had emboldened us to stand up for what we believe in. We can be called horrible things. We can be called, when you call somebody a fascist or a snowflake or a Nazi or a feminazi, whatever you want to call them. What you're doing is you are dehumanizing them so that any actions taken against them are justified. And unfortunately, that's just not the right thing to do. I can disagree with somebody and share my opinion, share data. And, there's a couple of cases where, they've thought about it and go, you know what? I see where you're coming from. They may not agree with me, but they can see why I have the opinion I have. And that's one of the things that we've missed the last 10, 15, almost 20 years now, where you could have civil discourse. You could have people disagree on things and you didn't have to start calling them names. And I think that's one of the big things that Charlie Kirk showed the world, is that you can discuss things with people, you can have debates with people, and you can hold people accountable for the things that they say and the things that they do. I'm not perfect. I know there's things I've done in my life that, somebody's going to call out and I'll be like, you know what? You're right. I was wrong there. There are some things I'm going to be like, no, you know what? Just because I hurt your feelings doesn't mean I was wrong. The truth doesn't care about your feelings. The truth doesn't care about whether you vote Republican or Democrat. The truth does not care. And I think that's one of the things that it has started to piss some people off. Now, I don't have a ton of Twitter followers, but I've lost some and I've gained some back. But I'm going to be me. That's what Charlie Kirk's death, that's the impact he's had on my life, is that I've been more willing to speak out, to call Twitch out on their BS. I'll get into it later, but the world racing community, I was a co-founder, and when I finally went to the other co-founder and said, hey, look, I've been debating this for a little while, but this is what Charlie Kirk's death has stirred in me. And I understand if, I need to step down. And I'm going to save all the details of that for another video. There's not as much drama there as you would like. That's just too damn bad. But there'll be another video on that. I know that there's friends that don't engage with my content anymore because they don't like the fact that I'm open about my faith, or that I am open about calling out evil, or I'm open about calling out people for their BS. And that's just too bad. At the end of the day, you know, like I said, the impact of Charlie Kirk's death on me wasn't just wasn't to pick up his torch and, you know, carry it on or anything like that, but was to be more vocal about my beliefs, more vocal about my opinions, be able to back that, you know, those opinions and that and whatnot with facts. I'm never going to be as eloquent as he is, or he was, never going to be as intelligent as he was, but I can still stand up and say, hey, you know what? You're wrong. This is why you're wrong. Or, hey, you know what? Here's my opinion. I don't care if you like it or not, but this is my opinion. And there are times where, you know, I will talk with somebody and I'll be like, hey, you know what? I didn't know that piece of information. Maybe you're right. It's rare. At being almost 50 years old, I've, you know, learned over the years to trust but verify, do my own research, do my own digging. Don't just, you know, take anybody's word for it. But I think in today's world, you know, Charlie Kirk showed that you could have debates with people on topics that are polarizing and not necessarily have to hate one another. And it's unfortunate that somebody hated him enough to take his life. And I hope enough people decide enough is enough and are going to stand up for what they believe in. Because we've heard for so long, if you don't agree with this, you're a fascist. If you don't agree with this, you're a Nazi. If you don't agree with this, you're racist. If you don't agree with this, you're a bigot. You're misogynistic. You're blah, 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 blah. Shut up. Just because I don't agree with you doesn't mean I'm any of those things. I'm not the villain of your story. All right, guys. Until next time, y'all take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll talk to you all very soon. Bye-bye.